this time. One of our partners in this effort for many years, my colleague from the Washington area, Jim Dinninger, President and CEO of the Greater Washington Board of Trade.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Jim Dinninger. I'm the President and CEO at the Greater Washington Board of Trade. For many years, the Greater Washington Board of Trade has encouraged the legislatures in Maryland and in Virginia to fund transportation. It's a critical need, as you heard Don say, for this region, and nothing is more important as it relates to keeping business going. So the business community for several years has gotten together to support the tax on gasoline, and whether it's on the wholesale side of things or at the pump. I know there's been some concern expressed about the Transportation Trust Fund, this lockbox, and our thought is certainly we want the money spent on transportation. First, you have to be able to raise the monies to have something in the lockbox before we talk about protecting the lockbox. So we will certainly keep our eye on the monies being spent. We want them generated first, and it's something that the Board of Trade, along with the Greater Baltimore Committee and other business organizations, has pushed for collectively for quite some time. When you look at the variety of different projects that are possible in the Maryland and in the Greater Washington area, it's an opportunity that can't be lost when you're looking at the bigger ships coming through the port of Baltimore, when you're looking through the liquefied natural gas as a potential opportunity at Cove Point with Marcellus Shale, when you look at the growth surrounding the Cyber Command at Fort Meade. All of this is going to put added pressure, added demand on roads. But in addition to that, you also have to have more money for MARC, more money for Metro, more money for the mass transit and alternative sources of transportation. That's what this funding does now and into the future. So again, the Greater Washington Board of Trade is strongly supportive of raising additional funds for the Transportation Trust Fund and for having those funds spent on transportation. Thank you.
What's important about this bill is it's not just a business community issue. It also deals with the quality of life for the residents of the state of Maryland. It's also particularly a jobs issue. We have with us today Mark Coles, who's a business and legislative representative for the Washington, D.C. Building and Construction Trades Council.
Thank you, Don. Good morning. My name is Mark Coles. I'm with the Maryland State and Washington, D.C. Building and Construction Trades Council, and we too are here in support of this transportation legislation. As you all know, the construction industry is still recovering from a hard-hit economy. Several of our members are still unemployed. We think that this legislation, if passed, will create much-needed job generation, and we support it because of that. And we also support the fact that Maryland's infrastructure is in great need of repair. So with that, thank you, and we urge support of this legislation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Obviously, one of the industry sectors that's been hit the hardest is the construction industry, and we have with us today Jim Russ, who's the president of the Maryland Transportation Builders and Materials Association, to talk about the impact that this has had, transportation lack of funding has had on their industry, and also the importance of this legislation for their organization.
Thank you, Don. As Don said, I'm Jim Russ, president of the Maryland Transportation Builders and Materials Association. I represent the highway contractors, heavy highway people, and the agri-producers in Maryland. And I've had 40 plus years of business in the supply side business before that, running corporations. As Don said, this industry has been hit very hard. We started back in '09 calculating what the layoff rates were, and the unemployment in our sector was in the high 28 area. By the next year, it was in the high 30s. And today, we have companies that have more than 50% of their people laid off. Some of the larger companies can travel. They go now to Virginia and other states up and down the East Coast to survive and get their work, because there's nothing in the pipeline currently in Maryland of any significance. The Intercounty Connector, I think, carried us and kind of put us to sleep a little bit, because the amount of money turned over, the amount of dollars in the community, and the economy that it brought to the central sector of Maryland and also in some of the other areas. That's gone. It's on its last footing. This was now. It's tapping out the D&E section, and it will be over very shortly. A little bit of work that is going on motor years on I-95 and the hot lanes. Other than that, across the state, in every area, there's nothing going on except a bridge rebuild here, an intersection change there. It's patchwork. And we're at best on maintenance, not necessarily system preservation. State Highway and MDOT does a great job of trying to make sure that we don't have a bridge fall down because they inspect them constantly. And that money, instead of being used for new construction, is used to patch and make sure that there's safety in mind everywhere we go. I woke up this morning and I have to tell you, the sun was up on a beautiful day. I looked out my back door and saw the Osprey had returned from the south. That's all good stuff. I turned on the TV and found out that Maryland beat Wake Forest. Life is good. And hopefully today we'll get the beginnings of getting a new transportation bill, which we fully embrace. It will probably have some tweaks along the way. These things always do. And we'll be hopefully in the mix of trying to help get it in the right frame. But we will be in full support starting today of endorsing this bill. We appreciate the governor, Senator Miller, and the speaker for coming together and putting us on the right course to start the fix of our transportation woes in Maryland. Thank you very much.
As Jim said, although many of us have been advocating this for a number of years, I think many of us feel that this year is the year that we have a real likelihood that this will occur. It certainly appears that we have the support, the governor and the president, the speaker, and that's very crucial for this legislation to move forward. And it's also crucial for the citizens of the state of Maryland for their quality of life as they move forward. A representative of the Laborers International Union of North America, Jermaine Jones, is here with us as well today.
Thank you, Don. Good morning. My name is Jermaine Jones. I'm the business manager of Construction Laborers Local 710 in Baltimore. I proudly speak for you today representing over 700 construction workers who live and work throughout the state of Maryland. These are workers who help build the roads that we drive upon each day, and I also had to help build the bridges our children cross while on their way to school. We've all witnessed the devastating effects the recent recession has had on our economy. And I'm proud to say that things are turning around, but unfortunately in some areas of our economy, such as construction, this turnaround is happening at a much, much slower pace. And unfortunately, there's hundreds of construction workers who rely on these jobs to put food on their tables and also to provide for their families. I must say that over the last 2 years, I've seen more and more women out of work than ever before. You know, and it's truly been a trying time for many of them. You know, because unemployment benefits are exhausting and bills are piling up. But if Maryland's economy is going to strive in the way in which I know it can, it's important that we do something now to help put these men and women back to work. And by supporting a bill like the transportation bill, because it will not only invest in our infrastructure, but also invest in the lives of the men and women throughout the state of Maryland who are actually dependent on this work. So I'm here today supporting this bill, this legislation, and we want to see it get done because not only will it help Maryland, it also help the men and women I represent who desperately need these job opportunities. Thank you.
Thank you. When you think about it, when we drive up and down the highways and we see the workers, we see those people that Jermaine and Jim and Mark talk about, but there's also thousands of other people across the state who are instrumental in working on transportation projects, and those people are people like engineers. So we're pleased to have with us Beverly Pawnee, who's Vice President of RJM Engineering, to talk about this issue and how it affects her industry and how it also affects her personally as well.
Good morning. As an owner of a small minority business, I'm very pleased to have the opportunity to support transportation funding. I'm very excited about it. In my business, I've seen firsthand our state's backward slide in infrastructure investment over recent years. I'm kind of concerned. But I don't want to talk about studies and statistics. I'm here to talk about how transportation funding affects my business and me personally. In order to provide high-quality engineering services, my business needs to attract exceptionally talented employees. Our employees live in both rural and urban areas, and all of them need to get to the office every day. Long commute times and getting stuck in traffic really do have an effect on their performance and their productivity. So much so that commute time was the main factor that we had in deciding where to locate our office. As our area's roadways become more congested, I'm concerned that mobility will be a critical factor in our ability to attract and keep good employees, as well as our ability to expand our business.